If you watched cartoons as a kid, or you're still a cartoon fan, Cartoon Network was the channel. It was part of the big three and gave us some truly amazing shows. But let's be honest, it also had some horrible moments. So today we're talking about the worst Cartoon Network shows that ever aired. But first, what actually makes a cartoon bad, in my opinion? What makes a cartoon truly bad? First, lazy writing. If every episode feels like the same recycled plot or tired jokes, it's a snooze fest. Then there's annoying characters. If the main cast just yells or acts obnoxious without any depth, nobody wants to watch that. Ugly, rushed animation doesn't help either. We notice when it looks cheap, and if there's no heart or message behind the chaos, the show feels pointless. Some cartoons also try too hard to be random, thinking weird equals funny, but it usually just ends up annoying. Worst of all, reboots. The ones that completely miss the mark. That's how you make a cartoon no one wants to watch. Some of the cartoons I'm about to mention aren't ones I personally hate, but they were widely seen as bad by fans. Uncle Grandpa is one of those cartoons that somehow ends up on nearly every worst Cartoon Network show of all time list. And honestly, I can see why. But here's the twist. The more I looked into it, the more I found that this show actually has a cult following. Yeah, like actual people online, especially on Reddit and in animation forums, defend it passionately. They argue that it was misunderstood, overhated, and unfairly dragged through the mud during its run. And you know what? They might be onto something. A lot of the hate for Uncle Grandpa came during a really specific era, 2013 to 2017, which was peak angry cartoon reviewer territory online. This was when people were uploading 20-minute rage videos about every cartoon they didn't like, tearing shows apart for being too weird, too childish, or too different from what they grew up with. Uncle Grandpa was basically a prime target. It was loud, it was random, and it didn't fit the mold of the more story-driven shows that were starting to take over. That said, let me be real. I didn't like Uncle Grandpa either. There's just something about it that never clicked with me. Maybe it was the chaotic tone, the flat-out weirdness, or the fact that the main character is a fully grown man who lives in a van and visits random kids every day like it's a completely normal job. And don't forget the talking fanny pack. Yeah, his fanny pack talks to children. You can't make this up. But even if I don't vibe with the show personally, I can at least respect that it tried to be its own thing. It was unapologetically strange, and for some viewers, that was part of the charm. So maybe it wasn't total garbage, just not for everyone, especially not me. Okay, let's talk about Johnny Test. And I'm gonna be real here. I actually like this show. People often say it felt like a knockoff Dexter's Lab, like Diet Dexter's Laboratory. But honestly, I don't really see it. But what I will actually agree with is the sound effects, aka the #1 thing people bring up when trashing this show. I don't know what was going on in the sound design department, but they had a serious obsession with that whip crack effect. Johnny would blink, tie his shoe, breathe, and bam. Whip sound. It got so bad that people literally started counting how many times the whip sound played in a single episode. And yeah, there were whole videos out there just mocking how overused it was.
Is it tonight?
It's my Tuscany pimento loaf!
Ew! We mean,
We can eat once Johnny gets here. Johnny, get in here!
It's like the audio was mixed by someone who just discovered the soundboard and refused to let it go. Now, to be fair, Season 1 wasn't terrible. A lot of fans actually say it had potential. The humor was more balanced, the animation looked decent, and the whip cracks weren't trying to burst your eardrums every 5 seconds. But somewhere down the line, the show just went off the rails. It got way too hyperactive, like, you know that one kid in class who can't sit still, talks way too loud, and is always chewing gum even though the teacher told them not to? That was Johnny Test, in cartoon form. Everything was loud, fast, and repetitive. It wasn't just high energy. It was, I think this show gave me a caffeine crash. Kind of chaotic. Shows like Adventure Time, Regular Show, and Gumball were pushing creativity. And meanwhile, Johnny Test was still out here using the same plot episode after episode. Before I talk about the next cartoon, we gotta talk about the Johnny Test intro because if you've got ears, you probably noticed. It sounds a lot like Green Day's American Idiot. Like, suspiciously similar. Same punk rock energy, same chord progression. It's not a one-to-one ripoff, but it's close enough that fans have been side-eyeing it for years. Cartoon Network never officially said it was inspired by Green Day, but come on. Somebody in the studio definitely had Dookie on repeat during production. Remember when I said some of these cartoons aren't ones I personally hate? Yeah, that doesn't apply to Problem Solverz. I think we can all agree. Nobody likes this show, and if someone genuinely does, I honestly don't know what to tell you. The animation, it literally makes my face feel like ants are crawling on it. I'm pretty sure this show gave people actual seizures. The Problem Solverz, aka the show that looks like it was animated on a broken Etch-a-Sketch by someone on 5 cans of Monster and 0 sleep. This fever dream of a cartoon aired on Cartoon Network in 2011 and somehow got greenlit even though it looks like malware. Cartoon Network really thought airing this mess was a great idea? Somebody needs to slap some sense into whoever greenlit this disaster. The plot? 3 guys solve problems in a city called Farborough. But, spoiler alert, the real problem is this show even existing. You've got Alf, who looks like someone sculpted a pile of wet mud, slapped eyes and mouth on it, and gave it the personality of a glitchy soundboard. Then there's Horace, the so-called leader, who literally looks like if Microsoft clip art had anxiety. And don't forget Roba, the robot who looks like a Reddit mod trapped in an LED light strip. None of these characters are likable. They're just there, screaming, constantly. The show tries to be random and quirky, but ends up feeling like a migraine wrapped in a Lisa Frank sticker pack. The color palette? Pure chaos. It's like they said, let's take every neon color known to man and just blast it at the screen like a rave gone wrong. And it's not like the writing saved it either. The jokes weren't funny, the characters had no depth, and the plot? Half the time it felt like they made it up 5 minutes before airtime. It tried so hard to be random and quirky. The Problem Solvers didn't solve any problems. It was the problem. Okay, let's talk about Out of Jimmy's Head. If you've never heard of this show, you're not alone. And if you have heard of it, I'm sorry. You probably still have questions. Let's unpack this fever dream together. Out of Jimmy's Head, often shortened to OOJH, was a hybrid live-action Josh animated series that aired on Cartoon Network in 2007. Cartoon Network, known for its animation, decided to roll out a show with real human actors, awkwardly talking to 2 D-cartoon characters that no one else could see. It was technically a sequel to a made-for-TV movie called Reanimated, which is already obscure enough to deserve its own file in the animation X-Files. The movie told the story of Jimmy Roberts, a kid who, after a freak accident, receives a brain transplant from a dying cartoonist. And as a result, he starts seeing the cartoon characters the artist created. In the series, Jimmy continues to live his normal life while being haunted by this gaggle of animated characters that only he can interact with. He tries to go to school, he tries to hang out with friends, but all the while he's got a circus of cartoons in his head. Look, I can sit here and explain the plot of Out of Jimmy's Head all day. None of that makes me feel any better about the fact that this show actually aired on Cartoon freaking Network. Like, explaining it doesn't heal the experience. It doesn't make the writing any less painful. If anything, revisiting the show is like reopening a scar you forgot you had and finding out there's still something infected inside. Let's not sugarcoat this. The writing was bad. Not just meh, not just dated, but full on, what is happening and why am I watching this? Bad. Jokes didn't land. Characters had 0 depth. Every episode felt like a rejected iCarly script with cartoon fart filters slapped on top. The pacing was chaotic, and the tone swung so wildly from scene to scene that it gave you emotional whiplash. You want to know why? Because halfway through production, the entire writing staff left. Yep, the 2007 writer's strike hit, and Out of Jimmy's Head was just left to flail. The later episodes didn't even pretend to have structure. Characters just said things. Things happened. And then an episode ended. No punchline, no resolution, just credits. Even when the writers were around, this show was struggling. The entire concept felt like it was reverse-engineered from a dare. Every scene with the cartoons was awkward. The animated characters never really fit into the real world. They hovered, jittered, and looked like they were animated on someone's dad's Windows 98 laptop. Jimmy's interactions with them felt like he was hallucinating on expired cough syrup. The show was just uncomfortable, to be honest. And don't even get me started on the humor. There are shows with so bad it's good jokes. This wasn't that. This was so bad it's silent. Like you'd watch it and just feel nothing. Blank stare, cold, empty silence. The laugh track might as well have been a slow clap from a disappointed audience. Out of Jimmy's Head wasn't just bad on its own, it was part of Cartoon Network's identity crisis. This was when they forgot they were Cartoon Network and tried to go live action because Disney Channel was popping off with Hannah Montana. So they gave us this Frankenstein monster of a show that clearly didn't belong on their platform. And they knew it too. They barely promoted it, burned off episodes in weird time slots, buried it like it was a cursed VHS tape, which explains why this show vanished without a trace, and why you probably never heard of it. Teen Titans Go is a low-effort parody of Teen Titans. Plain and simple. It was made for little kids, and it never tries to be anything more than that, which is the entire problem. The original Teen Titans was stylish, smart, and full of soul. It had detailed animation, slick fight scenes, genuinely clever jokes, and actual human drama. The characters had depth. The stories hit hard. The tone balanced humor and emotion in a way that stuck with fans for years. And then we got this, a show that took everything cool about Teen Titans and turned it into a neon-colored, hyperactive joke. I don't even need to explain further. We all watched at least some episodes. I did, but I couldn't get very far. Why? Because have you seen how many freaking episodes this show has? It's an avalanche of content, 400 plus episodes, and somehow it keeps getting renewed. The quality? All over the place. The show hits some shockingly low lows and, I'll admit, surprising highs. But overall, it's aggressively mid. It lives in that gray zone between forgettable and frustrating. And don't even get me started on the random fetishy moments. Yeah, those weird scenes you blink and miss and then wonder if you imagined. It's uncomfortable. I didn't even notice some of them until people online started pointing them out. I've watched maybe a quarter of this show's episodes, and I'm sure a lot of fans are in the same boat. This show has been getting away with murder for years, and nobody really cared because most of the episodes were just painfully mediocre. They weren't bad enough to cancel, but not good enough to celebrate. And the hardcore haters? They weren't mad for no reason. They were mad because you took a show that had weight and turned it into something childish and dumbed down. All in bright, blinding colors, of course. Loud, shallow, and safe. Kingstar King isn't just something you shouldn't watch as a kid. It's something you probably shouldn't watch as an adult either. But, of course, I grew up. I got curious. I finally watched it. And let me tell you, I regret everything. Kingstar King isn't just weird. It's not just Adult Swim weird. It's basically a grotesque, hypersexualized, loud-as-hell acid trip wrapped in a blinding neon fever dream. You watch it and immediately feel like someone spiked your orange juice with chaos. And honestly, I do suspect that someone involved in this show is getting a little too much personal gratification out of making it. Because let's be real, there's so many flopping, exaggerated cartoon lady parts on screen, swinging around with zero context like someone said, you know what this scene of laser decapitation needs? Sexy, jiggling troll with 12 nipples. But instead of being remotely erotic, it's about as arousing as getting a dental filling with no anesthesia while someone screams gibberish in your ear. This show doesn't just look bad. It looks like the animators were actively having a psychotic break while drawing it. Every frame is bursting with some violently clashing color scheme, poorly layered 2D characters, and motion so janky it makes your brain itch. They're screaming, melting, vomiting, exploding, swallowing, ripping, and that's just the first minute. Yes, I get it. Kingstar King is supposed to be grotesque. It's a parody of classic 80s cartoons like He-Man, turned up to 11 and dipped in radioactive syrup. It's intentionally abrasive. It's trying to be offensive, loud, weird, and in your face. But there's a difference between clever grotesque and just nauseating trash, and Kingstar King mostly leans into the second one. Every moment is filled with nonsensical, hypersexualized, visually repulsive imagery, and at a certain point, you stop being shocked and just start feeling tired. It's like, okay, I get it, you're edgy. Can I have my brain cells back now? And I'm still mad I went out of my way to watch it. Like, I had to search for this show. I chose to watch it. I made time in my life for this. And when it was over, I sat there blinking, questioning all my choices. I could have folded laundry. I could have rewatched Adventure Time for the 100th time. I've seen bad shows. I've seen gross shows. But Kingstar King is one of those rare ones that manages to be both aggressively unfunny and visually offensive in the most exhausting way possible. Let me just say this though. As much as I hated this show, as much as it made me feel like my eyes were being punished, I still hate Problem Solverz more. Alright, let's talk about the Powerpuff Girls reboot. The one with the absolute worst reputation in the Cartoon Network reboot lineup. I'm struggling to think of a single redeeming quality outside of the intro, which, to be fair, is admittedly fantastic. You could argue it's the only thing from the reboot that actually gets it right. But here's the thing, the intro doesn't do the rest of the show any justice. It's like a trailer for a movie that has no relation to the movie itself. The intro has energy, it has charm, it's colorful, but then you get into the actual show and you're just like, wait, what happened? Because this reboot was, frankly, a huge downgrade from the original. Let's break it down. The original Powerpuff Girls wasn't just about 3 adorable little girls with superpowers, it was about empowerment, teamwork, and these characters constantly overcoming obstacles while saving Townsville from everything from evil geniuses to giant monsters. These girls weren't just cute, they were heroes. They represented strength, independence, and were really ahead of their time in terms of breaking stereotypes for young girls in cartoons. But then the reboot happened, and, well, it went in the opposite direction. The reboot tried to make the girls seem more relatable to the modern audience. Great idea, right? Except it wasn't done well. They turned the girls into whiny, overdramatic teenagers who spend most of their time being irritated at their own powers or dealing with pointless, melodramatic high school-like problems. They went from heroes to just kids complaining about their lives. It's like they lost the essence of what made them so special in the first place. One of the most cringy things about the reboot was how it tried to modernize the girls by making them act more like stereotypical, social media-obsessed teens. They ditched the original fun, fast-paced action for pointless storylines about friendship drama and OMG, I can't believe she said that. It was a watered-down, mass-market version of something that was once incredibly bold, and that's why the show got so much hate. Much like Teen Titans Go, it took something beloved and flipped it into something that didn't capture the heart of the original. Secret Mountain Fort awesome. More like Stupid Mountain Fort awful. This abomination follows 5 hideous, obnoxious characters who go on what can only be described as failure adventures together. You've got Festro, the loud, impulsive one who thinks he's the leader, but he's really just an idiot with muscles. Then there's Guilok, a green, nerdy blob who's obsessed with technology but is completely useless. Dingle is the friendly one, but his voice and personality are so annoying, you'll want to mute the entire episode. Slog is just there. He's slow, dumb, and probably smells like moldy socks. And then there's the Fart. Literally a floating fart cloud with eyes. That's not a joke. That's what they thought was character design. The creator of this disaster, Peter Braungart, went on to make Uncle Grandpa. But here's the thing. Secret Mountain Fort Awesome was actually his original creation. That's right. This was his vision. Imagine being the mastermind behind not 1, but 2 shows that constantly rank on people's worst Cartoon Network shows of all time lists. Honestly, if you hate this show, I respect you. Alright, let's talk about one of the most baffling disasters in Cartoon Network history. The high fructose adventures of Annoying Orange. Yes, Cartoon Network really looked at a YouTube video of a screaming fruit and thought, yeah, let's make that a full TV series. Out of all the creative original cartoons they could have invested in, they picked this. Now, if you've never seen the original Annoying Orange YouTube videos, you might not realize what a weird choice this was. The whole premise was literally just a talking orange annoying the hell out of other fruits. That's it. Bad puns, loud noises, zero depth. It was like watching a 2009 meme have a mental breakdown for 5 straight minutes. And then, for reasons still unknown to science, Cartoon Network decided to adapt that chaos into a TV show. They slapped together some of the cheapest CGI you've ever seen, stuck the same YouTube-style screaming over it, and called it a day. The result? One of the most low-effort, painfully obnoxious shows the network ever aired. Let's start with the obvious, the voice. Annoying Orange's voice was like nails on a chalkboard mixed with a car alarm. Every time he said, "Hey, Apple," it felt like your brain was melting. And somehow, that's the main joke. Repeated. Forever. You know how some shows get more tolerable the longer you watch? This one got worse. The characters? One-dimensional. The writing? Embarrassing. It was like the creators dumped a bowl of fruit on the table, scribbled a few bad puns on a napkin, and called it a script. And yet, this somehow ran for 2 full seasons on a major Cartoon Network. Now look, I get it. Not every Cartoon Network show has to be Adventure Time or regular show. But Annoying Orange wasn't just a miss. It felt like a complete misunderstanding of what made Cartoon Network special in the first place. This was a network known for bold animation, clever writing, and unique voices. And here comes Annoying Orange, rolling in like a viral video that overstayed its welcome by 5 years. What makes Annoying Orange stand out among the worst is that it wasn't even trying to be a good show. It leaned into being irritating. It knew it was annoying, and instead of improving, it doubled down. And there you have it, Cartoon Network's worst shows. Some of these were straight-up disasters, others were just forgettable. But hey, we all have our guilty pleasures, right? Let me know in the comments which one you think deserves to be at the bottom of the barrel. And if you enjoyed this rant, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more. See you next time.